It won't
Because
be
it's,
everything.
because on the phone it will be like cut off.
Hello everyone, it is 6 o'clock, so we will get started. My name is Taylor Motley, and I'm the City and State Editor at the Daily Tar Heel. Thank you so much to everyone who came out tonight, and thank you to our Chapel Hill Town Council candidates who took the time to be here today. Chapel Hill Town Council member Paris Miller-Fishy was unfortunately not able to make it tonight. Before we get started, just to go over the rules, I will ask a series of questions followed by opportunity for public comment. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question. Please do not go over your time limit. And to start, we will go from left to right, starting with Louis Rivers III and going down to Camille Berry. If everyone could please share, begin with opening statements, and Mr. Rivers, we'll give it to you.
Is that 60 seconds?
Yes.
For opening statement?
Yes.
Started. Sam?
Yes, right now.
Oh, maybe we should go mic is on.
Okay, perfect. And.
All right, thank y'all for having us. This will probably be our last forum. I think, I'm definitely have my platform where I'm focused on climate, severe weathers, making sure that we're prepared for severe weather, we can respond to it, more housing, and also community engagement. So this may be the last time I get to talk and people actually listen to me. So I've just been thinking a lot about what does it mean to serve in governance, and I keep thinking about Audre Lorde's, "You'll never dismantle the master's house with the master's tools." And for me, that means when we serve our Chapel Hill, when we think about working in government, we should do it with kindness and empathy. And that's just something we don't see enough in our country. And hopefully we can practice this here in Chapel Hill. Because what we see in the country right now is kind of the master's tools being used. And I think we're all sick of what we see nationally.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wes McMahon, running for Town Council. I'm in this race because I've dedicated a lot of my life to public service. Here in Chapel Hill, I've been on the Parks and Rec Commission. I am on the Planning Commission. I want people in Town Council that have an understanding of what it means to run a town, how a budget works, how a council works with the town manager to get our vision implemented, and in an environment where people have relationships with people in the community and on council. We have to work together. Our community is counting on us to deliver results here locally because we're not seeing them at the state level and the federal level. I'm a person who can help bring folks together, who brings a knowledge base of what we're doing in the town. Look, I'm running on Parks and Rec. I want to make sure that we have a way to implement our plans on making sure that Chapel Hill is a place that is affordable, is a place that people can work and live, but also can recreate. The third thing would be greenways. We're working on building housing here because we've got 40,000 people that commute in and out of town each day. We want a place for them to stay here, but also to be able to get around safely. I'm Wes McMahon. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, I'm Eric Valera. First, I want to thank you, the Daily Tar Heel, for hosting us and for everybody for coming here today. I'm running for Chapel Hill Town Council because I want to be engaged with our community and I want people to be engaged with us as well. I've participated as part of the Planning Commission. I'm involved in a lot of local nonprofit organizations and I've led local nonprofit organizations, and I see the importance of developing new leadership across the board. And I think that these are the ways that they're able to engage people to come in, become part of the process. And as we're planning, we need these voices. We need the voices of lived experiences, not just technical and academic knowledge, but we need to be able to bring in those who have experienced cost burdenness in affordable housing to help us understand how we should do it right.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Camille Berry, and I am an incumbent candidate. I have served for nearly 4 years, and I've enjoyed it. And I have not accomplished everything that I wanted us to achieve here in Chapel Hill. I don't know that we will while I'm on council if I were to serve the next 4 years. But what I do believe is that we get much closer. And we have, the first thing is to increase affordable housing, which means increase housing, period. The second thing is to bolster our economic development. The third, to honor our green space. We can't achieve any of those without addressing our infrastructure. And so that is critical for me. Tropical depression, Chantal, really emphasized how vulnerable we are. And so that is something that the council moving forward will really have to address. Our infrastructure in more ways than one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For our first question, this year, the 2025-2026 tax rate was set at 5.8 cents above the revenue neutral rate. Would you support future tax increases in favor of maintaining the town's programs and services?
Are we going left or right?
Yes, left to right.
My short answer is no, and I want to say why. So, no, and I think it's because I'm not sure if that's sustainable for people in town. I think there's this perception of Chapel Hill being an affluent town, but I think there's a lot of people who are struggling to pay their current property taxes. And I suspect there will be more people struggling as we try to deal with what's happening at the national level. So I think we need to think about trade-offs that maintain a tax burden on people who live in town, especially people on fixed incomes and people who have problems, paying for their mortgage. So I want to support it, and I think we need to think about trade-offs to avoid future tax increases.
Thank you.
No, on council, we have a responsibility to make sure that if we're asking taxpayers to increase their share of contribution to our services, that we in fact are doing the work of budgeting smartly and doing the work to increase revenue from other resources. Look, it's a cost of living issue. It would be great if we lived in a world where we all had enough money to chip into wonderful services across the board, but the reality is that if we keep increasing property taxes at a high rate, that's way beyond the rate of inflation, then it makes it difficult for long-term homeowners and people on fixed incomes to live here. I worry about my own personal future in Chapel Hill. We've got to make sure that we as a council are doing what we need to do in-house to reallocate spending, prioritize our budget, and find new sources of revenue so that we're not constantly increasing the burden on taxpayers to shoulder all of our great services in town.
Thank you.
So no, I'm not looking to raise taxes any further. I think that we need to find new revenue sources as well. We need to be able to impact the economy, improve the economy that we have right now. I think that also means bringing in more folks to be able to increase the tax base, which is mostly the folks who are already here, the people who work here, the people who work at the university, the people who work at the healthcare, in the healthcare system, the people who work at the restaurants. If they live somewhere else, they're not shopping here. They're not contributing in sales tax. They're not close to their children. We need to be able to balance the revenue without having to raise taxes, and especially as valuations are going, have been known to be inequitable. We need to pay attention to the budgeting process and the valuation process moving forward.
Thank you.
As a current council member, I voted for the increase in taxes this year. And for me, it was imperative that we do so because there were budgetary decisions made prior to my term that really put us in a difficult position. We had needs for our fleet. We had needs for our personnel. Orange County pays some of the lowest salaries for staff, and we are constantly being poached. Our staff is leaving and it is more expensive to replace staff. Equipment needs to be replaced, and then services need to be updated. The question was, would I support an increase in the coming year? No, that's where we would look at cutting services. We did cut a service this year, and boy, the pushback on that has been incredible. That was one of the things, that was something that we thought wouldn't hurt as much as others. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Speaking of program reductions, if the town had to cut programs to minimize tax rate, can you speak louder since you don't have a mic? If the town had to cut programs to minimize the tax rate, what programs would you like the town to look toward as potential cuts?
That's me again.
You want to start with?
We'll start with Weston.
Oh.
Thank you. I've been asked that question, we've all been asked that question a lot. My short answer is I'm not sure, because we don't have a robust set of data on what our results are. I think that we need more information on what results we're seeing in our different programs to make an informed, data-based decision. My great example is transit. We contribute to transit. They have a lot of employees in our budget, but the bus doesn't come by my house, and I don't take the bus. So is that a program we should cut just because I don't use it or I don't benefit from it? I don't think that's a responsible way to govern. I think we have to make sure that we have set our goals, we look at how the manager and staff is delivering on them, and we make decisions based on programs that aren't delivering the value that we're looking for. And that'll be a process of working with staff to find out what information we have to make data-based decisions. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not an easy decision to make. It takes a lot of forethought, but also it does take a lot of data to understand where's the revenue coming from each program. We receive money from the federal government, we receive money from the state government, we receive money from property taxes. And so we need to also consider what the revenue sources are and how to be, if we need to be able to cut or whether we can find a new revenue source to be able to cover it. So I don't have a program in mind that I would cut, but I do want us to look at the fiscal responsibility of how to be able to increase revenue so that we don't have to.
This definitely will be a discussion with our town manager and town staff. Staff has done an exceptional job of looking at ways of how they can streamline services, how they can share resources between departments. And I will say that transit, while it looks like is the biggest portion that we pay, it is actually leveraged by federal grants. And so I just want to put that plug in there. The university pays the most out of the partners that fund transit. But looking at core services, making sure that we can meet the needs, and then looking at council initiatives, and council did decide not to move forward with the council initiative this year because it just wasn't the year to expand on things. So a discussion with our team. Thank you.
I agree, this is also something that we want to do based on data. Also something we probably want to involve the community in. So like Camille alluded to, the change in leaf service was something that made sense, but we've heard a lot about on the campaign trail. So I think it's important that we involve the community in these trade-offs that we're going to have to make in terms of budget. That being said, I think we also need to look for ways that we can partner with our neighboring communities. So already we share services with Carver and Durham. Can we increase that? And the example, and also with UNC. So the example I like to think about is that if you walk from UNC's medical campus and you get slightly lost, you may go and encounter the UNC hospital police, the UNC police, Carver police if you get a little bit lost, or you go take the wrong path, and then UNC's police. Is there a way that we can streamline those services?
Thank you. As discussed, in September, the town changed its leaf collection policies, leaving many residents divided on their thoughts on the policy changes. What would you have kept or changed about how the town handled those leaf collection policy changes? We'll start with Mr. Bolera.
So, the town made that decision, it was September? So this decision was made before that. It wasn't until September that people found out. I think if there's anything that should have changed about that is how it was communicated and the engagement that people had as part of that process. It seemed to catch people off guard and abruptly, and the town could have done a much better job of preparing the community for something like this and explaining the reason for doing this and the benefits to the environment for doing it, but primarily to prepare people ahead of the fall.
Yeah, agreed. I was disappointed because we actually voted on this in June and it was not communicated well. It was communicated, but not communicated well until, I want to say September, August, September. Communication is one of our weaknesses that we have. We struggle to figure out a way to share news. We certainly discuss it during the meetings, but not everybody has the opportunity to attend those meetings. We do have video that you can watch, but who actually has time to go back and watch the video? So the town is looking at how can we communicate better. We have consolidated our communications. We're not there yet. We take input, and so we are welcome to hearing what other differences can we make, what other things can we try out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree that the communications around the decision should have been made better, but I think ultimately it was probably the right decision. The town didn't get rid of leaf removal service. They changed how leaf removal service operates. So you can still have access to it if you get a bin and you remove the leaves yourself. So I think if that would have been explained, that would have been helpful. Then I think when we explained it to people, I think we should have talked about the environmental benefits. I am very much, my day job is about the environment and I'm very much focused on climate, but I think for a lot of people, this is a question about services. So I think the message becomes confused when you're saying this is better for the environment, and some people see a service removal or putting more work on the local community. So I think we should have been clear about the messaging, but I think ultimately the town made the right decision.
Right, I mean, the leaf question has many different reasons why we do it. Cost savings is only one of them. It wasn't communicated well. It was not communicated in a timely fashion. Look, one of the things I want to do on council is increase public confidence in the work we're doing. And a big part of that is communicating with the public, not only to get information, but to report back on what we're doing and how well we're spending our money and how well our services are doing. And I think public confidence is low right now, and we need to improve the way we're communicating with the public so that that everyone can feel like we're doing the right thing in town here together. So I believe the mayor put out a message, and Councilmember Barry said that I think it will be revisited next year. I'm not sure that bringing the vacuums back will be on the table, but we do need to find a way to hear from the community better on this issue, and all issues, quite frankly. So improving communications is a #1 top priority.
Thank you. When it comes to improving public engagement, what specific actions would you like to see the town take to improve public engagement and engagement with the community? And Ms. Berry, we'll start with you, please.
Thank you. Yes, that is something that we're working on. There's a team that will go out and meet with the community in their setting, and having meetings where it is convenient for folks to gather. One thing that I like to do is be available to meet with people in coffee shops. There's one particular coffee shop that sees me there a lot, but I'm not the person that people really need to speak with. It is, they want to understand how are these decisions being made, and that is a challenge that we are coming up with. Evenings, people are getting home and fixing meals for their families. Daytime, people are working. So it is a matter of how versatile can we be, and we're trying to be. So again, we are open to suggestions, and we are trying to be as responsive and proactive as possible.
Thank you.
I think we should copy a model that Raleigh currently has. So Raleigh has the citizen advisory councils where they divided up the town into precincts. And you have, in each of your precinct, you have a stand-in monthly meeting between the town and that precinct. And I think there's something that we can do similar in Chapel Hill. And I think it's important that we have these stand-in meetings that are required, and I know this will be more time for staff and it could be expensive. But going back to what Wes said, this crisis of confidence, there's a trust issue in Chapel Hill. And I think part of that trust issue is that people who live in Chapel Hill feel like they don't have a relationship with our government. And part of that is because you just go to the government when something's wrong. So if we have this standing meeting where you're regularly getting information, hyper-local information from the government, but also you can share information back to the government, I think that would help build trust between the citizens in Chapel Hill. And it'll also help with communications around changes in policy, new buildings. I think it would help address a lot of issues we have in Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're keenly aware of what doesn't work. We've tried offering childcare and transportation. That didn't increase attendance. We've got a lot of e-news and social media, but that's all opt-in. We know what's not working. We've got to figure out what is going to work. And a lot of it is going out and meeting people where they're at, engaging partners, congregations, schools. We got to figure it out. And I go back to, again, it's not just getting input on decisions. It's replying back, closing the loop, showing people what has been done. The Affordable Housing has a great website with dashboards, and you can very clearly see where money's been spent and what we've got as a result. We need more information like that on our programs across the board. That's it. And one thing I'm concerned about after being a person who's been on Parks and Rec Commission, the Planning Commission for 10 years altogether, or 9 years altogether, sometimes I feel like my meeting time is wasted. So I want to make sure that we're honest and clear with people on when and where their input matters and where it's valued, because this trust and confidence comes from, hey, I provided my input and no one heard me, no one cared. So we got to figure out to make sure that if we're inviting people out to engage, it matters and it's valued. Thank you.
So you see my material on the front, it says inform, consult, collaborate, and empower. That's the framework that the town uses for community engagement. Community engagement is bi-directional. I think the town is improving on the way that it's informing the public and that it's consulting the public, but in terms of collaborating and empowering the public, we're taking a step back. Last year, the town got rid of 9 boards and commissions, and earlier this year reduced the size of 4 other boards and commissions. We need more opportunity for people to be able to engage the town and to be able to to be able to create these tables that help serve as advisory boards. And to be able to do that, I think we need to be able to include the people whose lived experiences we have been excluding. And as we know, this is the Black community, immigrant communities, young people, renters. Those are people that we have data that are not engaging in the process.
Thank you. The town is currently evaluating a potential amendment to the land use management ordinance that would eliminate concept plan review for developments. Could you please tell me whether or not you would support the amendment and why? And we'll start with Mr. Rivers.
Yeah, I would support the amendment. I think why it's expensive to develop here in Chapel Hill. I think a lot of things that we see, a lot of the buildings that we're not happy with, the fact that Franklin Street seems like it can't keep local businesses, comes down to the fact that it's hard and expensive to develop here in our town. I think this amendment directly addresses that, and hopefully it makes it a little bit easier and a little bit more affordable for local people and local developers to actually develop here in town. Because right now, I think what we see is a lot of people who can afford our expensive development process. And those are people who don't live here.
Thank you.
I think the conversation is still bearing out. On the Planning Commission, I was for, and I currently am for, getting rid of concept plans for one major reason, which is that it occurs so early. And I have so many neighbors and people in the community that see the concept plan and think that that's what's going to be built, or that's the thing that's going to get done. Meanwhile, there is years often of site plans and reviews done with town. So whatever we do, I want to make sure, again, it's clear to people so that they know what we're actually doing and where they're at in the process. With that said, I want to be on a council, you need 5 people in council to work together. I'm not a lone vote. So as I talk to voters and I talk to other members of council, this is not a make or break issue for me. I'm willing to work together as a council to come up with what the right changes are. But I am worried that concept plans can lead people to have the wrong idea about what is being built or what might be built, and that it does add a burden to the process of getting things moving in a way that will achieve our goals.
Thank you.
So the omnibus land use management ordinance that was presented to council included many more things than just the concept plan. It included how the zoning, it included how we would license mobile home parks that have in the past, that they didn't have any licensing at all because they were incorporated into the town. They were already there when the town incorporated that. The concept plan review is, there's a lot that can already be done once we have that in the ordinance as to what it is that we want. It's not going away completely, it's just who does the concept plan review, right? So if it has to come to council, it takes up more time. But are there cases where we might need that? Perhaps.
Thank
Do we
you.
need that every time? Not necessarily.
Thank you.
I am in favor of this recommendation by the staff for the amendment. My peers on this panel have talked about managing expectations, and that's what we need to do. Concept plan is just that, it's a conception, right? It's not your final product. Is to be clear, to be very clear what we are expecting, and that is via our land use management ordinance. That's where we communicate, this is and these are the parameters that we have. And when we have staff to do that, there's less, we have more standardization and less negotiation, which is what you often get when council weighs in.
Thank you. As the university continues to grow and more students are admitted, student renters often experience displacement. Northside residents that experience displacement due to student residents. What would you like to see the town do to support the preservation of the Northside neighborhood and help its residents continue to live there?
Could you repeat that once more, please?
Yes. As the university continues to grow, Northside residents often face displacement from student renters. How would you like to see the town approach the preservation of the Northside neighborhood and helping its residents continue to live there? And we'll start with Mr. McMahon.
Well, with 60 seconds to answer this, I would say that one of the things this council will have to do, that I want to do and I'm willing to do, is work with UNC to help them invest in building housing, and particularly on the MLK corridor. 2 years ago, we worked on a pilot project with the university through our complete community strategy, which was going to look at Midtown, where Flyleaf is, Root Cellar is, UNC as the Shepherd Center across the street. We could work with them to build housing there that would provide more opportunities for students to live on a bus line along the Greenway. We've got to negotiate and work closely with UNC as they develop Carolina North to make sure that they're investing in the housing they need for their students. It should help relieve pressure on the north side if there are other places, attractive places, good places for students to live that are on a transit corridor, part of connecting with downtown and the campus. So UNC has something to bear here, and we can work with them to help make those investments.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as the university grows, it puts more pressure on the town to be able to house the people who are going to school there or who are going to work there. And so we need more housing if we're going to help, and especially if we're going to help alleviate pressure from one neighborhood. We need to be able to have housing for folks across the life spectrum, from when you're a student, young professionals, families, seniors. We need to be able to create spaces so that we are not in competition. We're not in as much competition for the housing stock that currently exists, because this is the reason why we're seeing so much displacement, because there's been a scarcity of housing. And so we're all competing, and whoever has more money is going to be able to get this type of housing. So if we are able to increase the supply, that will help alleviate pressure on the demand.
Thank you.
Yes, increased housing for sure. That's already a need that we have. Looking to do that on the transit corridors, as was mentioned, MLK is certainly an area. And as of 2-3 weeks ago, the university does not have to have to consult with the town of Chapel Hill about developing on their land. The state legislature put that through, but we are in communication with the university. Another thing that we have to do though is look at our infrastructure. So we already have problems with transit, with travel. We also have problems with our electric grid. There are parts of our community that go black from time to time. And so looking at all of those, there's not an easy solution here, and I don't think that it's just Northside that is suffering.
Thank you.
Yeah, so first I want to acknowledge that UNC has done good things with Northside. So they said they support the land bank, which has really helped bring more families into Northside. And my house is through the land bank, so I appreciate UNC for that effort. And I think the part of the question that's really interesting to me is this nature of preservation. I think we want to preserve the history of Northside, but what we need for Northside is a vision of the future. Because we just can't try to preserve the past. And I think that vision of the future in Northside includes families, young professionals, and students. So the question is, how can we make sure we have the right mix in Northside going forward? And I say this now, and I realize how difficult of a conversation this will be. Because right now, a lot of the residents in Northside, a lot of the pillars of our community are older folks. And the question is, how do you think about the future that still respects their past and respects what they want to see right now, namely their past? So I think this is a really difficult conversation.
Thank you. Within the parameters of the Brownsfield Agreement, what is your vision for development at the former site of Chapel Hill Police Headquarters, which has coal ash at it? And we'll start with Mr. Valera.
So, we've done nothing up to now, right? We've been having arguments as to how to be able to handle this, eliminate the coal ash completely, cap the coal ash. I'm at the point where something needs to be done. I can understand the difference between that if we get rid of the coal ash altogether, we are going to, there's risks that come along with that. If we cap it, it may not be as long-term a solution, but it does, but it's a solution that will help to us now. But what we've done now is nothing. So I would like to see us move and make a decision on this, whether it's going to be one way or the other.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to counter that. It's not that we've done nothing. We actually had to relocate our staff from there. And the coal ash that sits below is just one of the many dangers that were present for our team there. That building itself was toxic, is very toxic, and we are looking to clean it. But what can we do about that? We are looking at weighing the consequences of relocating that coal ash, so when it becomes exposed, what happens to the community around, and then where would we take it? Which community is worthy of suffering more than us, right? Do we have the capacity to cap it the way that we would expect someone else to? So I actually disagree with that we've done nothing. We actually have been looking at these. We haven't taken action, but there's a lot that has to happen before one can take responsible action.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we should definitely, I don't think we should remove it. I agree completely with what Camille just said. I think it would be just a displacement and create an environmental justice issue somewhere else. I think we should look into capping. I think the question is an ongoing monitoring. So we want to cap the site, we want to make sure that the site is safe going forward. So we want to invest in ongoing monitoring. I think the question is, what do we do after that? And I think that's something that we want to involve the community. And honestly, this is a place where we should involve UNC. I'm not saying they put all the coal ash there, but they put some of the coal ash there. So maybe they should be part of addressing the solution.
Thank you.
But we're going through our Parks Master Plan will end next year. Clearly that location eventually will be a great site for pickleball courts or basketball courts, something like that. But here, let's go back to the budget conversation, right? We talk about what programs we want to cut. This goes on a list of things that we can't cut. right? So we're gonna be faced with a lot of these decisions, whether it's recovery from Chantal, whether it's taking care of this coal ash dump we've inherited. So part of our budget conversation isn't gonna be, boy, what do we wanna cut? It's gonna be, what are the things we have to do as a responsible town that's responsible to the lives of people first, and then make some decisions about how we spend our money. But to me, this is one of those things you can't not spend money on. We have to take care of it. So that's the conversation we'll have. And eventually, it might end up being some park resource or something. We'll have that conversation later. Right now, we gotta figure out how we're gonna spend the money to make sure it's safe.
Thank you. As the town works on rewriting the LUMO, what things would you like to see be added or removed from the LUMO to change how the town develops? And we'll start with Ms. Berry.
Thank you. I would like to see one thing that was already suggested, which is streamlining the process where we can standardize and the staff can address how development happens. Also, being clear with how do we envision the development of this community. It won't be just for today, and it won't be for just 5 years. We are looking at developing this town for the next 25, 50 years. How do we do that? Putting that clarity in the LUMO would be so helpful, because right now there are so many contradictions that exist that we are constantly having to negotiate each time. So more clarity, more consistency, and one that communicates well what our expectations are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to see the addition of more by right processes for multifamily buildings. So we don't want to give people the right to build like a huge apartment building on their property, but I think we do want to provide easier pathways for duplexes and triplexes, you know, that missing middle that we're constantly talking about. So I'd like to see more of those processes built into the LUMO. And then I also think procedurally, going back to the point that Camille made, is that this is a document that we need to regularly be revisited. It can't be a document that stays the same. So I'd like to see us install some procedures where we regularly revisit the LUMO 2 to 3 years. Because right now, I think we've been kind of getting by with the same one since 2003. And council's made changes, but they've been piecemeal changes. And I think those piecemeal changes have proven why it's so difficult to develop here in Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
I'd like to go back to what is the role of the council and what's the role of staff, and the fact that we should be establishing in partnership with the voters in the community on what our goals are. And one of our main goals right now is to create a more diverse set of housing options in this town. We call it missing middle, right? I live in a 1,500 square foot home. I don't know where you can buy a 1,500 square foot home in Chapel Hill. The options are very limited. And when we look at updating our code, so I own a half an acre, I could put an accessory dwelling unit or a cottage court on there. But the big picture for me on the goal is the fact that whatever happens to my property after I'm gone, is it best to have it replaced by one family or potentially 2 or 3 that could walk to school, that could work in town? And I think one of the goals for this town is to create more options for people to make a home here of different lifestyles, different family types, so they can walk to our schools and they can enjoy our greenways. So when I think about updating the LUMO, I go back to our role is to focus on the goals that we want to see, and it really is this missing middle housing. And you're welcome.
I would like to see more opportunities for infill using lots that aren't being used currently and being used more efficiently so that we can create more housing. I'd like to see that we include wider sidewalks and more opportunities to be able to walk and that connect with greenways so that we are able to complete an everywhere to everywhere greenway network. And that new developments also can go more efficient through our system, through by right, but also help us modernize our infrastructure as part of it.
Thank you. Amid increased concerns of ICE's appearance in North Carolina and state bills that increase compliance with ICE, what would you like to see the town do to support its immigrant population? And we'll start with Mr. Rivers.
Yeah, I think we should adopt, a Fourth Amendment workplaces similar to what we see in Carrboro. so we can make sure that we have protections or some level of protection for people at their work site. I think we also need to be really vocal in protection of our immigrant populations. I think it's not just about making sure that they're safe as possible, but also letting them know that they're full members of our society. So I think that's something you have to be loud about. And I know that may put a target on us, but I think it's important that people feel that they can be full human beings here in Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
This issue coming from the federal government to us is the same thing we're facing with the SNAP that's gonna get cut off here and food shortages. Look, I want our town, our staff, our town manager to focus on running an efficient town that, you know what, is there to provide support, to provide programs for people, whether it's across any department. So we as council members can work on the political side of things, but I want to make sure that our town manager and our staff are there to do the day-to-day work to help take care of people, because that's what we want. I want, as a community member, to know that the town of Chapel Hill is taking care of its people, and we can do that by supporting our staff and our town manager in delivering on these goals of keeping our community safe.
Thank you.
So when we think about who is undocumented, it's typically folks in Chapel Hill that more likely is going to be in mixed status families, where you have some folks in the family that have some documentation, some folks in the family that might have been born here, and some folks that might not have all the documentation, but they're here and they're contributing to our town. We as a town need to be able to come together and help protect those who are most vulnerable. That means making a plan, right? What happens if? And I hate to think that something's gonna happen, but what happens to your children? What happens to your bank account? What happens, do you have a lawyer that's ready? We need to prepare like this is a storm that's coming, and we've already gotten the warning. We also need to be able to help protect our neighbors. So ICE Watch programs, similar to Crime Watch programs. If you see something in your neighborhood, call, let your neighbors know. Let's go out there with cell phones. We also need to be able to have Fourth Amendment workplaces so that our businesses are able to understand what is the line that they can cross so that we're not over complying with people.
The town, I agree, is responsible for taking care of its citizens, but I will say that it is the community that I believe should work towards protection in this manner of what do we do when ICE comes in. We will, our staff, our police force will protect its community. Our staff, our police force, I will tell you, I trust. As a mother of a son who presents as a black male, I trust so much, and that's saying a lot. And I went to them, and I'm not going to tell that story. Our training for our staff, for all of our staff, is so different than any other municipality in this state. And we are selective as to who we hire. Do I support Fourth Amendment workplace? I do. I do think that our staff needs to have that training. Thank you.
Last year, the town changed its requirement for stormwater prevention efforts to account for 100-year storms instead of 25. After Tropical Storm Chantal this past July, which was estimated to be between a 500-year and a 1,000-year storm, what efforts would you like to see the town take to further mitigate the impacts of stormwater? And we'll start with Mr. McMahon.
There's a lot of conversation about what does it mean to have a 25-year storm or a 100-year storm. Those numbers don't really matter. What matters is the idea of there's going to be more water, right? And so it was good for us to say 25 years, whatever that means, that amount of water, we wanted the developments to account for more water. We got to deal with the fact that our flood zones have expanded and changed over time. We need to have experts involved in this, whether they're on our staff or outside of staff, but me as an individual council member shouldn't be figuring out whether or not what we're doing is good for the stormwater or not. So everyone is asking me, what's the truth? What are the facts? How can we be prepared? And the thing is, we need to rely on our staff. We need to rely on other experts that we can trust who are providing real concrete scientific information about what's going to work and what's going to be effective. Because if we're going to spend money on it, we got to make sure it's going to get us results.
Thank you.
So because there was a policy change does not mean that the infrastructure changed the day the policy was voted on. And our infrastructure had been for 25-year storm plan, and so now moving forward, it would be for 100. So that means this is a change in how the stormwater infrastructure would need to change over time moving forward. We're gonna continue to have storms like this, and they're gonna come more often because this is the reality of climate change, that we're experiencing storms are going to become more intense. It's about protecting the people now. So there's the infrastructure that we need to change, but then who are those who are in harm's way when it comes to heat, when it comes to storms, when it comes to all of the impacts of climate change? We need to think about protecting the people as we are improving the infrastructure.
Thank you.
In September of 2021, the council heard an outcry from the public about the Booker Creek basin, stormwater basin, and it was going to be done similarly to the one that was done at Eastgate. And those came about as a plan that was created by a consulting team that the town had hired to do. That September, and I know because that was 4 years ago when I was on the campaign trail, the council called a stop to it. Had a team that the mayor assembled. We have not done meaningful work since then on our stormwater system. We have got to return. Maybe that plan was not the right plan to move forward, but we have got to, and I have to take ownership in this because I've been on council for 4 years. We have got to move forward with a plan. I know that we have engaged new consultants, but we have, we've already made investments. Thank you. 60 seconds is short.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments of our panelists. We have to really invest in our stormwater system going forward. And I agree with Wes. This is going to be a really complex problem, probably more complex than you realize. So we really do need to engage with scientists, and we need to be prepared going back to the budget. This is going to be a big cost. Because I think the question is, it's not a question of creating a stormwater infrastructure that's going to be ready for the next storm. It's a question of creating a stormwater infrastructure that we can iterate on and will be ready for a storm 20 years from now. And that's going to be expensive. So like, we need to look at other cities, Charleston, New York City, stretches of New Jersey, who albeit have more money than us, but we're gonna need that type of infrastructure, and that's gonna be expensive. But we need to start on that now, and it needs to be a priority for town. I think other, people up here said this, but like, all of our other plans rest on having a sufficient infrastructure. And if we can't protect our citizens, the stormwater, we can't do anything else.
Thank you. When Tropical Storm Chantal hit the area this summer, what do you think the town did well with regards to communication with the community, and what do you think the town should have done differently? And we'll start with Mr. Valera.
That was a difficult one. That was a tough day for me too. In the morning of, we didn't know the storm was going to be that much. We were expecting maybe 3 to 4 inches. We got 3 to 4 feet. I live off of Bowling Creek. I saw the water rising. It was coming towards me. We actually took in some water that day. I thought I was going to have to be rescued. When you look at disaster preparedness, there's what you can do before, there's what you can do during, and then there's what you can do after. And I don't know what more we could have done during that time, but I'm really glad that we did have emergency responders. We didn't lose any life that day. So I'm glad that we had the systems that we had in place to be able to take care of the people that were there at the time. Now, what could we do then to be able to help clean up from the storm? And I think that we also did a really great job of coming together as a community and taking care of the people who were the most affected by it. So what could the town do better? It's really hard to say. Because we didn't lose any life, I think it was successful in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was out in that and saw from Elliott Road where we had emergency responders by boat. There was a boat going by to respond. I believe the town did its best as far as communicating on that day. And what I think that we could do better is, and we've talked about this, how do we communicate with the public about what they can do? We had so many community members who wanted to be of assistance, and that the town has reached out to certain groups, but even I, as a council member, was not getting information of what the community could do. Communications is not our strong suit, but as far as safety, it certainly was that day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll agree with Eric and Camille that I think no one passed away that day. I think in terms of safety, the town did well. Communications was not good, and I think the town should have a bit more flexibility in how it turns and how it thinks about recovery. So like that week I met Wes for coffee, and he actually took me to a site to help people recover. We ended up cleaning out carpets and battling some hornets, doing other stuff. Triangle Mutual Aid was there on the spot. They were organized, they were getting people out there. I went to the town's website, I went to the town communication, there was nothing about Triangle Mutual Aid. That was a failure on the town's part. I'm not highlighting a resource or people who could help people immediately. So I think going forward, we need to be willing to partner with organizations that maybe we traditionally would not see as partners as a community.
Thank you.
I think this is a great example of the type of more confidence we need in results. Look, our staff was out there, public works staff, housing staff were out there doing the work. They don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to do the communications work also. We have a communications staff that we pay. They needed to do a better job of doing that work to communicate with the public, but also take the lead among council members and the mayor as well, because everyone needed direction, and you need that from emergency communications, trained people to make this work, so everyone is on the same page, communicating with the media and the community effectively. The other thing is like looking at community partnerships. In my neighborhood that flooded, the whole thing is like, look, the town is not going to come sandbag your house. The town isn't going to help you move your furniture from the first floor to the second floor. What are the other resources and systems in our community like mutual aid that are going to do that? And it's about reevaluating expectations of what our town can do in these type of events. We play a role as a town, but it's going to take the whole community to do an efficient response to this. But we got to do better with communications, absolutely.
Thank you. What would you like to see the town do to better support the downtown homeless population? And we'll start with Ms. Berry.
Thank you. I would like to see the town continue to see our homeless downtown population as people. They are residents who happen to not have shelter. And that is something that we work hard to communicate with the public about, is that we don't want to criminalize these people because if they are homeless. There are other issues that they are facing. How do we address that as a community? We are partnering with the county on this, as well as other municipalities, both Carborough and Hillsborough, behavioral health center. But how do we, I would like to see us communicate that and also continue the relationship that our staff has with these people so that we can go in and de-escalate rapidly as we do. Not always perfectly, not always in time, but I appreciate our staff seeing these individuals as individuals, people.
Thank you.
Yeah, our unhoused population, I think, is a big issue. And so it's a huge thing. I'm not gonna get everything out I want, but there are two things I think we need to do immediately. I think we need to communicate about what it means to be unhoused. It's not a personal failure, it's a system failure. If someone's unhoused, it's not their fault. Something's gone wrong in our system. So I think but that's not clear to people. And that's not how America rolls. Things are seen as personal failure. So I think we need to have an open conversation about that. And then secondly, it's not a downtown issue. It's a whole community issue. I think we see it downtown because those are kind of our few open third spaces in town. But our unhoused issue is something that affects our entire community, and it grows out of like failures of the town from across our community. So it's not just downtown, we just see it downtown. So I think if we're gonna think about addressing it, we need to think about a whole community effort, and not just what we can do downtown about it.
Thank you.
Partnership. This is not just a town issue, it's a community issue, it's a county issue, a state issue, a national issue. You know, this isn't something that the town alone can do. We have to do it in partnership. I attended the roundtable with Orange County Partnership in Homelessness, who's really doing a great job of coordinating all the players. We've got congregations in town that are involved in this. We have great organizations like Porch and Table that do work in different areas. But we have a real great base of nonprofit organizations, churches, and we're going to work with the county to build the center up at 27 Homestead. Goes back to expectations. We need to work with a partnership to say, what is the town's role here? What can the town do? But not expecting the town to take care of this problem on its own, because we don't have the capacity or the money, and frankly, the whole community can chip in and help on this issue, particularly in partnership with the county.
Thank you.
So people need homes, they need places to live, and we need to be able to help accommodate places to live for people who can't get them on their own. And I agree, there's different types of housing, right? There's different types of unhoused folks. There's folks who are chronically unhoused, and there's folks who are acutely unhoused. And we need to be able to find ways to be able to address the different types of homelessness that exists, but also think of this as much of a public health issue, because there are folks who are dealing with different health conditions without being in a home. They are also going to the hospital because of their health conditions. If they had a place to live, it would be a much less burden on the system. So we need to include UNC Health, we need to include UNC, Carrboro, Durham, because it's going to be a game of whack-a-mole as to wherever the services are. We need to be able to come together and serve not just Chapel Hill, but the region.
Thank you. What efforts would you like to see the town take to further support affordable housing? And we'll start with Mr. Rivers.
Yeah, first I want to acknowledge that the town's done a lot for affordable housing. They've passed some great things recently, and we're gonna have more housing coming on. So we have we're doing a lot for affordable housing in Chapel Hill, but we can always do more. And I want to specifically think about people on fixed incomes. So I think we often think about creating new housing stock, which we definitely need, but I think we also need to think about in terms of affordable housing, keeping people in their houses who are there now. So that means, especially in the current context, we've had this increase in taxes and the property revaluation, which is making it untenable for a lot of people to stay in their houses. How can we create processes that help people stay in their houses? And we have the tax abatement program, which I think the town put $100,000 into. Can we think about expanding that and making sure that people are aware of that fund so we can make sure people can stay in their houses?
Thank you.
Where we started with coal ash, we went to stormwater, we went to unhoused, homelessness issues. We're talking about things that all cost money and what we're gonna do. Affordable housing is something that we have invested in, and Chapel Hill has done a great job of providing affordable housing. The town has a plan, it's all there. We're gonna have to focus on things that don't cost a lot of money to see gains in affordable housing that are within that plan. So I don't have to come up with it, the plan is there. We've got a revolving loan fund so that builders can tap into money there. We can keep working with developers to provide affordable units and build them for us. But look, we've done a great job in town. We've got a plan to do it, but we're gonna have to put this with all of our other budget issues and figure out what are the top priorities in 2025, 2026, up to 30, and see what we can do for affordable housing that is gonna also mesh with our other needs in town.
Thank you.
So this is a national problem that needs local leadership. I think that our town does comparatively maybe doing better than most, but we can continue to do better. The Affordable Housing Plan has fundamentally three things that it does. One is increase the housing stock by looking at policy changes which will allow us to have more housing available to help mitigate the market. Two, to be able to help those that are at risk of being displaced, because we have a scarcity issue, and as housing is rising, if people are displaced, they're going to go right back into the market, and it's going to be very hard for them to compete. And then we need to be able to find housing for those who are earning less than 30% of the area's median income, because they're not going to be able to compete in the housing market. We need to be able to create homes that meet their needs as well, because they are contributing to the community. So those three things is a comprehensive plan, and I want to be able to help see that through.
Thank you.
There was this topic of affordable housing that compelled me to run 4 years ago. Prior to that, I had faced housing insecurity with children in tow. I had faced food insecurity, I had faced financial insecurity, period, full stop. What I understand is that people of different household sizes are in need of housing in this community. So we have to build not just for one type, not for just one income. People who have jobs are looking for housing, and they might opt to go down in size so that they can afford a house here. We have a dearth of options. We need to continue to increase. We can't look for affordable housing just through subsidies. We have to make it more affordable across the board here. I'm very proud of the work that we've been doing, and it actually started before I joined council. We have ramped that up. And you may see me, you will see me, argue about which options are available. Thank you.
We will now open the floor up for public comment. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we will come around with the microphone. For our viewers on Instagram and YouTube, if you have a comment, please feel free to leave it in the comments of the live stream and we will ask it on your behalf.
My name is Ray Parker. Question of the diversification of tax revenue. The diversification of tax revenue and the augmentation of tax revenue, such that it's not dependent on residential tax. That was brought up, but nobody's mentioned when and how that's going to be done. And in that context, I'll put that aside for a second, and just help me understand one thing, is that we've been here for about 32 years, but I get tourist duty overseas many times. I come back and see 5 more apartment buildings built, and I see trees torn down and more apartment buildings built. We're all talking about environmental issues too. Maybe it's a separate topic. So I come back shocked after 8 months, because there's 5 new buildings up. What the heck is going on? And is that increasing the tax base or putting overall more pressure on our revenue base that needs to be expanded? Sort of intermixed questions. I'm sorry to go back in time, but I wanted to bring those up. That's what really, I'm really interested in hearing your comments.
Thank you. Each candidate will still have 60 seconds to answer and we'll start with Mr. McMahon.
Thank you. One of the things I've learned from being on the planning commission and running for this position is that these apartment buildings become one of our major sources for commercial tax revenue. The Berkshire building, for example, down there at Casual Pint, is now valued at $67 million. That gets taxed through our different non-residential property tax. These apartment buildings not only provide a place for people to live, but they create additional income from us. Look, we're going to do a wet lab downtown. I don't think that's probably going to happen. We don't know. We don't have any Walmarts, or that we do have a Target downtown, but the idea of where's it going to come from, and right now it's coming from these apartment buildings. Talking about the environmental impact, we're focusing on transit corridors where these are being built so that they're on transit lines, so that people can use a bus or have access to greenways, again affecting, decreasing the amount of carbon emissions we hope over the long term. But they're located in places that make sense, in places in town where they fit, where they're possible, and it shouldn't be shocking. We should have been doing some of this over the last 20, 30 years. We just really haven't.
In 60 seconds, huh? So I'm gonna go with what's going on. So in 2014, they developed the Blue Hill District. There was an ordinance that created a form-based code. And that form-based code said that if you build this type of building that looks like this, and to these specs, you're gonna be able to build it without having to go through so much review and so much, go through so many different boards to get it approved. So this isn't that they just happened. This was going back to 2014. What we're seeing is that they're starting to come online, and we're starting to see the development come up now. But this was something that had happened from the past. But the way that they were developed and the reason why they look the way that they look was because it was already encoded in the ordinance that if you did it this way, that you would be able to do it quickly.
Thank you.
So it is considered commercial development, and that does help offset the residential tax base. But this most recent revaluation process, business is commercial. The reval was less significantly than the residential, which we don't understand why. The county came to explain, the county tax assessor's office came to explain that to us. And yes, many of the apartment buildings that you see are from previous council decisions from quite some time ago. We do need to diversify. We are trying to, and that's part of every one of us saying that we want more economic development. And then that's where we all think about how do we do it responsibly. So your question to environmental, how do we develop so that it is responsible, so that we don't cause more harm to this community? And actually, how do we reverse that? How do we improve? Not just keep it status quo, which is what the state mandates. How do we help to improve?
Okay, so I'm gonna focus on the environmental aspect of your question. My main focus in life, with what I have left, is climate change. We need to be denser. So I've only been here 13 years, but since I've been here, Chatham Park is developed, Briar Chapel's developed. We are developing housing communities in traditionally rural areas of the county. Our housing choices are climate choices. I think too often we've made a disconnect between that. When we choose to put a single family residence on a piece of property that can support a multi-family unit resident, that's a climate choice. And that's a permanent climate choice. So I understand trees are super important, and I wanted us to grow in such a way where we respect our trees, because also trees aren't coming back like they should. But I really want us to develop where we have existing infrastructure and we don't develop in our rural areas, which we're seeing right now.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Gosh, we've talked a lot about housing. And when it comes to starter homes, and there are lots of small homes in Chapel Hill that were built in the 40s and 50s, maybe now it looks like there's many, they're kind of hidden, not old Chapel Hill. Okay, but the elephant in the room seems to be that people don't have to inhabit these houses. Investors have been coming into Chapel Hill for years. Everywhere this is a problem, not just Chapel Hill. And the affordable homes are scooped up by investors. And even now that we're building all these squeezed townhomes, there's ones all around me now. I live in a townhome, by the way, so. But there's new little developments, and Katie Home, for example, who's just done 2 of them, has squeezed them to get in as many as they need to make their profit margin. And yet, investors can come in and buy them. And I told the previous mayor about the neighborhood behind me, I said, it has to be, it can't be, investors can't come in and buy these, or we're wasting our time building, middle, mid-tier, affordable housing. Finally, when the plan was approved, it was said that one entity could not buy more than 10 units. Well, the whole neighborhood was only 58 units. So why is it that, maybe it's a legal thing, that we can't sort of have a moratorium on investors buying homes when we're so short on inventory? anybody knows.
Thank you for the question. And we'll start with Mr. Valera.
Well, I don't think you can discriminate on who can buy or not buy homes. I live in a townhouse also, that was built in 1980. And we haven't built very many of those to start out with. We need to be able to create more housing that is of that type. And help facilitate it so that first-time homeowners are able to buy when it comes up. It's a kind of a two-pronged thing, right? Because number one, we want first-time homeowners to be able to have access to this. So the more that we can help prepare them for when they're ready, the more likely they are going to be able to have the down payment and have all of their ducks in a row in order to be able to buy when it does come time to buy. So.
Thank you.
So I also agree, I do not think that we have the legal right to say who can buy, just as we don't have the legal right to say who can rent. And that's a different topic, and I'll talk with you all later about that. But to Mr. Valera's point of helping families, helping individuals be prepared, that's where we have great partners in our community. Community Home Trust is one, and Empowerment is another. Habitat for Humanity can help with that, even if people are not buying through their programs, they help with that. That agreement that the former mayor, and I'm thinking you're talking about Pam Heminger, is talking about, was a negotiation that was reached. So how do we negotiate those opportunities? And that's what it will have to be. But how do we prepare people to be ready? But it's extremely challenging. And Chapel Hill, like other desirable places, is an expensive place. If you have a desirable city, town, that's an expensive town.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it's legal to do what you want. I wanted to say amen when you were making your statement. But I'll focus on a different facet of this. Like, some of this does come down to individual choices. We have a lot of people in Chapel Hill who may be moving out of their houses in the next 10 to 15 years. A lot of our houses stock are held in elderly hands. So what's gonna happen to that housing stock? And that's an individual choice. So can the town help create systems, information to help people make decisions that are responsible for the community? I'm not sure, but it's tricky. So I say that as individual choice, but I also understand, like, in America, so much of your retirement is wrapped up in your house. And I think that creates perverse decisions. So I think people want to live for a community, but the way that we set up our country leads to people making decisions that maybe not best for their community. So, like, it's tricky, but we've got to do what we can locally.
Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's a problem we can solve. Like who buys or who doesn't buy. We can't dictate whether it's going to be a rental or a condo or a townhome. It's a national issue we've got with what the future of home ownership looks like. I mean, last night at NPR, they were talking about the rising cost of home insurance and how that might push people out of home ownership, and then we're all going to be renters one day. You know, like, this is a real crisis we're having. I think what's important is that you have leaders like us that are telling you what we can and can't do, as opposed to people that say, yeah, absolutely. We can make sure that the next business is going to be owned by a small business owner. We can't promise that. But again, it goes back to building confidence and trust and communication so that people like you trust what we're saying when we're saying, you know, we're trying our best, but the reality is we can't do it. And developing that sense of confidence in what we're doing and how we communicate will go a long way to helping clear up about what is and what isn't possible here in town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Sarah Ray.
Okay, I'll use an outside voice to do that. As you guys know, I'm Ed Harrison, I was a council member. Came in before a number of people in this room were born. I was around for 16 years. One thing that you learn really fast when you're on a council in North Carolina is that someone else controls things. and it's the state. And Ms. Berry has already experienced that probably on things you wanted. Got any ideas, any of you, how to get around that?
We'll start with Ms. Berry, thank you.
Yeah, is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for sharing the answer. But also be in community with people, and that's a word that I use a lot, community, meaning talk with people. Alan Boyncy is my representative of the state, Greg Meyer is my senator. They both have their convictions, but they also work well across party lines. And that's something that we're going to have to continue to do, so that we see the shared value, and not just the divide that's there, because we have a lot more in common than we give ourselves credit for. So it's gonna have to be, we're gonna have to work with this in community and exhibit a little bit of trust, make some, I already have to do that on council, right? I have to make some concessions, and have to make some accommodations, and we need to continue to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're all gonna give some very to this answer, like, we gotta focus on the state. I think we should specifically advocate for things, and a policy we should advocate for is that our state legislatures get paid more. Because right now, they get paid $18,000 a year, and makes it a rich person's job. So I don't think we have things in common with the people running our state. I think they're rich people who have myopic views, and they could care less about the rest of us. And that's why North Carolina is the way we are right now. So I think we need to advocate for like concrete changes. And one of those is making it a living wage, so we can have normal people who actually been to a grocery store in the last 10 years themselves, serving our state legislature.
Thank you.
I encourage everyone to check out Neighbors on Call, County to County. I think they've merged, but County to County is here in Chapel Hill, in Orange County, and they set up ways for us to go out to other counties and help elect other people that have our shared vision and shared values. That's one way to get active. The second thing is speaking to the young people in the audience. Get out and vote. There's a sense that, well, we live in Chapel Hill, everything's blue, everything's fine. We have a number of statewide races, from governor to treasurer, where our vote really does matter here, and it sends a signal that young people are voting, because we got to get more people engaged in the process. And specifically this week, where we've done early voting and the numbers are very low, encouraging people to get out to vote in this municipal election gets them ready to vote next year for our state level races and county races that'll make a big impact. So go vote this week, go vote next year, go out and help other people in other counties vote, because the state does run the ship.
Thank
They
you.
really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a nonpartisan race, but kind of a partisan question. So yes, I say it's mobilization, and Orange County has been doing a lot to help mobilize across the state and win winnable races, because a lot of races just aren't winnable because of gerrymandering. So wherever there's slim margins, we should be out there knocking on doors, voting for the interest of not just Chapel Hill, but the interest of the people across the state. And also in mobilizing during municipal elections, we typically have a low voter turnout because it doesn't have the same flash as a presidential election or a midterm election, and the money doesn't come as much for, but your vote holds so much more weight when we are in a municipal election and when the voter turnout is low. So yes, we need to vote, and we need to be able to work well with the elected leaders that we have now to help empower them so they can fight at the General Assembly.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments or questions? Thank you so much, everyone. We will now head into closing remarks. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to make their final comments. We'll begin with Mr. Rivers. Thank you.
Yeah, first I want to say thank you to the Daily Tar Heel. I think our two best forums have been ran by young people. So we had the Youth Council do a forum last week that was extremely well ran, and this was an extremely well ran forum. So thank y'all for that. yeah, please come out and vote. I would really appreciate your vote. I'm focused on climate, I'm focused on more housing, I'm focused on more community engagement and have concrete ideas for all those. But at the end of the day, come out and vote. You ain't gotta vote for me, I appreciate it, but just please come and vote, because it's really important. And we know it's important because they're constantly trying to take that right away from us. So please come out and vote.
Thank you.
I want to leave you with two things tonight, one of which is we've got cuts to our funding, we've got the federal government replacing funding with fear, we got a state that doesn't have a budget to fund our schools, we got stormwater, we got a lot of stuff. Time is not on our side. We need a council that's going to work together. It's fair if you want to say one issue is your do or die issue, but I've had more people in this race talk to me saying, we don't agree on everything, but I believe in your ability and desire to work together. And I think we have to work together as a community. It's not Pollyanna, it is necessary to get going. The second thing is we have to look at the town's role in the community, in the county, and we can't do everything alone. And the expectations of what the town can deliver have to be thought of in the context of the whole picture of the community and who can do the work, because we're heading into difficult times with not a lot of money and a lot of things we got to do. So we need to work together, and we got to work in partnership. And finally, let me just say real quick, this might be the last time the four of us sit together. We've had a really good race. I've got to know each of these folks better, and it's been a wonderful process. And if you take away anything, take away the fact that hopefully we can move in a direction of this idea of working together, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's not the campaign, it's the friends you make along with
Yes.
Yes.
During this campaign, I think this town is very lucky that 5 people stepped up that are prepared and ready to serve. I think we've made it a little difficult on you all because we have agreed on so many things. And it's our job to be able to distinguish ourselves from one another. I am one that wants to engage the community, and I want the community to engage with the town, even if we agree or don't agree, but I think we make better decisions when we come together and we work together. There's going to be a lot of decisions that we're going to have to, a lot of very important decisions that are going to have to be made in the very near future. I hope you consider me when you go vote. It would be my honor to serve you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a special race, so different than 4 years ago, and seems to be different than just 2 years ago. But I hope you will consider me, and I hope you will consider all 5 of us. All 5 of us are prepared. All of us have served this community in some way. I may be the most idealist up here, but we all have great hope for this community. Regardless of which 4 you get, this town will be well served by those 4. I have had a great time of being in conversation with people, talking about challenging things, being in disagreement, but being able to hear what they're saying, and I hope that they've been able to hear what I've said. That's something that I would like to continue, and I will, regardless of whether or not I'm on council. So thank you very much, because I've been an honor for 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight. I sincerely appreciate it, and thank you to our Chapel Hill Town Council candidates for being here today. If you have any more questions for me or thoughts about the Daily Tar Heels coverage, I'm happy to talk afterwards, but I sincerely appreciate you all coming out tonight and hope this was informative. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you all.